Hello, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Just for everybody watching this, they're watching on YouTube. We are not live, though we are on Zoom, like many, many people these days. So I'm going to have you go ahead and tell everybody your name and where you are right now.
I'm CarolAnn Miller, and I am currently in my house in Muhlenberg, Pennsylvania.
It's so good to see you, CarolAnn, and I'm Pastor Kristen Glass Perez, and spoiler alert, we know each other really well. We spend a lot of time together, or we used to spend a lot of time together.
Now we just virtually spend time together.
Right. Before the coronavirus, we met in person all the time, and so we're happy to be able to talk today on Zoom, and we're going to have a conversation that we think is real for a lot of people. CarolAnn, why don't you just tell me a little bit about yourself? So how do we know each other?
So I am a student at Muhlenberg College, which is where Pastor Kristen is the chaplain, and I am a senior. And so I've been through the transitional period that my college went through to bring Pastor Kristen to our school. And so I got to meet her when she was in her the interview process, and now she's been our chaplain for 2 years, and we have grown very close because I am very deeply integrated in the chapel community that we have on campus, which is our Protestant community. As my father is Lutheran pastor, I have always had that deep-rooted faith that I have continued to experience through the college experience.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and it's just a great joy of my life to serve at Muhlenberg College. Muhlenberg College is one of the 26 colleges and universities of the ELCA, and Egner Chapel is our chapel on campus. And CarolAnn is a lifelong ELCA member. I also want to say that Egner Chapel is the first Women of the ELCA campus unit, and we're excited about that. And CarolAnn actually serves in that capacity as our president, because she's also the president of our chapel committee. So we're really delighted to think about issues that affect women and girls worldwide. But in particular, we spend our time thinking about young adults. CarolAnn is a young adult, and what the church can do to serve the world and live out the gospel as young people, and in particular as young women. So also, could you share with us what your home synod and home congregation is? And that might be a little bit of a complicated answer for you.
Yeah, no, actually, my home synod is the Upper Susquehanna Synod, and my home congregation is Messiah Lutheran Church in New Berlin, although that's a more recent development in my life, as I was a lifelong member of the Metropolitan New York Synod and of Our Savior's Lutheran Church in Brooklyn until we moved out here.
Okay, well, it's good to be connected through many different congregational communities in lots of different ways. And then, of course, also now for 4 years, you've been a very active part of the Egner Chapel community at Muhlenberg College. So let's get into talking about this coronavirus. So I think the first thing I want to ask, I know the first thing is, when did it become real for you?
It really became real on, let's see, what day would that have been? Tuesday, March, oh my gosh, what date was that?
It may have been March 17th, which I think was St. Patrick's Day, or the week before, around that time.
Yeah, it would have been around March 10th, when the email came out saying that all of the Muhlenberg students were being sent off campus to return to their homes, because we were taking the precaution of the spread of the coronavirus through our college community, because we are a small, tight-knit college community that is so close together all the time. They didn't want to allow that spread to happen. And so having gotten that email and being told, you just came back from spring break and now you're going home again, and with the uncertainty of if we were going to come back or not, that was really when it hit me, saying like, this is a big thing, and this is really serious. And then the second time that really hit hard was when we got the email saying we're not returning to campus for the rest of the semester. And I think those were the two biggest moments that really sort of pushed in my mind just how real this situation is, because a college that wants to have its students have these experiences of being a college student is saying we cannot have this. I guess that was really what was the big thing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Like many colleges, Muhlenberg, we suspended in-person classes for what we thought was going to be a month-long period, and it turned out not to be that. I can tell you, and you and I talked about this, I really thought it was going to be a month. So we planned like, okay, this isn't ideal, but we'll see everybody in a month, and then it'll be after Easter and we'll move on. And then that didn't happen.
Yeah, it was really when we got the email saying we're not returning that I was like, yeah, this is a big thing, because of the fact that there were so many things that I was planning to do. I was like, yeah, we're gonna have so many things that we're gonna do when we're back on campus. We have our big chapel event that we're gonna have. We're gonna have all of these other things going on. We're gonna have senior week and all of these experiences. And then when we got the email saying we're not returning, I was like, well, there's the end of the in-person year of my senior year at Muhlenberg College, and it sort of was just then that it really hit me. This is how it is, and this is going to be a very serious thing that's going to last for an undetermined period of time that we have yet to figure out when life's gonna go back to normal.
So what are some of the stages that you felt yourself move through with that realization process?
Yeah, I hit anger and sadness really quickly, one after the other. When the news first hit that we were being sent home from college, I hit anger really quickly because I was like, this isn't fair. Why would they do this to us? And I spent a lot of time ranting with my roommates and my friends, being like, this is ridiculous. How could they do this? But quickly after, in that same day, I was talking to our choir director at Muhlenberg, and he and I were talking about the experiences we're going to miss and all of these things that we're not going to be able to do because of not being at college, and all the choir concerts we weren't going to have and other musical performances. And that sort of really sunk in deep with me as I realized all of the other things I'd be missing. And then that sent me into the experience of sadness of realizing this isn't something I can be angry about because I can't control it, but I can be sad because this is all of these things that I'm not going to be able to have for the last time of my college career. And then when we were sent home, actually before we were even sent home, it was later on that week, I came to the feeling of acceptance pretty quickly as well, because I was like, there's nothing I can do. I can't change the situation. I'll still be sad, but I've accepted that this is how it has to be for the safety of our whole community as well as everyone in the United States.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. You and I have talked a lot before just about the grief process, and I really think that this is a worldwide grief process that we're in, and that we can't just pretend that things are normal. We have to acknowledge what's going on and how really nobody expected that, except for the people who made Pandemic on Netflix. I'm just saying they knew. But so, in grief, we talk about primary loss, the person that has died or the thing that's gone away. And so we might say, maybe I won't say, I'm going to ask you, what has been a primary loss for you in this experience?
In-person connection with my college friends and everyone that I've met at college, because I live very far from basically anyone else that I've met at Muhlenberg. So even before we had like the entire shutdown of Pennsylvania, which happened today, where it was telling us to stay at home, and all of the decrees of like, don't do this, don't go out, don't, I sort of was like, well, if I was closer to people, maybe I could see them, which now obviously I'd be like, no, I'm not seeing I love my friends, I'm not seeing them. But at the time I was like, that's the big loss, because there's no way I can go see any of my friends, any of my college people until this whole thing is over, because there's just a big distance. And so it was just the big loss of in-person community, on the college, like losing the college campus experience of being there.
Thank you. What would you say have been some of the secondary losses, which actually we may not have realized yet, but for you, what have been some of the other things that feel like a loss in this process?
The ability to go out whenever I wanted to, that's a big loss for me, because I do like going for walks and going around and not being cooped up in my home. And that's definitely been a loss. The loss of the ability to make music with my friends and other people around at college is a big loss, because we can't. Making choral music is very difficult to do in a situation where you cannot be with other people to sing as a choir, as well as losing some of my other communities as well. That's not just the people from college campus, but the community that I made at Christ Lutheran Church in Allentown, where I worked during the semesters. Losing that community is a big loss, because I got really connected and close with the people who attend Christ Lutheran, as well as are in the choir there. And so losing that is something I'm feeling as a big loss as well.
Yeah, there are a lot of losses, and I think we haven't realized all of those yet, but I'm really grateful that you are sharing that with us and thinking through that. How do you think that so far this pandemic experience has changed you?
I think that it has really made me aware of what is possible in our world, and how close quartered we are with people. Also, how reliant I am on social interactions, where even though I identify as an introvert, because I do prefer my alone time, like to recharge, I need my alone time and I need all that sort of the ability to have my own space. But when I'm consistently in a place where I have my own space, I get antsy, because I'm like, I miss being able to be with other people. I miss socializing with people in person and not just using Zoom or other media platforms.
Absolutely. Switching gears a little bit. So in the middle of this thing that we don't know if we're the middle, we're at some point in this experience, where have you seen hope?
I've definitely seen hope in my friends and my family through all of this, with their smiling faces and the ability to still have some positive attitude through this whole thing, even though it is so terrible. I also have definitely seen hope in the way that my church community here has held together and continued to be a strong community, even with the fact that we are not able to gather in person. My pastor has done really well at keeping us engaged and involved, and trying to get the congregants to do things that connect to the service. So he has asked the congregants to, if they so choose, to send in readings, them doing the reading for the week, or to use videos of pre-recorded music that we've made. So my father and I have sent that in multiple times to our pastor to be used in the videos for church service. And then he also uses Zoom for Zoom coffee hour to keep us having the ability to communicate with our church community, which has worked really well and is something that I'm really happy to still have through this. And it's definitely given me hope that communities can stay strong even though we're not having the in-person contact.
I love those ideas and those descriptions. As we are getting ready to wrap up our Zoom conversation, what would you say to the class of 2020, however people would define that, whether that's high school, college, graduate school, other things? As a member of that class, what would you say to other folks who are
my big thought, and the big thing I've said to people who are in the class of 2020 in any form, is this sucks, and it's allowed to suck. It's allowed to feel horrible, and you're allowed to be upset with the fact that you're missing out on all of these big things that are supposed to be what people tell you is going to be the best year of your life, that you're going to be a senior, whether it be high school or college, and you have this time and you were supposed to use it for your prom or for graduation, for anything, and missing those things are some things you're allowed to grieve. I know I have been grieving them. And it's definitely, you're allowed to miss that lack of community. That's a big thing that will be a gaping hole for a while. But as long as you're proactive, you can try to fill that hole in some way.
Thank you. I think that is really excellent advice. I have been thinking a lot about the Book of Lamentations, which is in the Hebrew Bible. that's what it's about. It's a series of 5 poems for lament that Jerusalem is lamenting because they're in exile and the temple's been destroyed. And I think we sometimes want to move too quickly over that part, and it's a really necessary part. And so it also doesn't mean that we can't find other ways to celebrate, but I really appreciate you sharing honestly about that. Is there anything else that you'd like people to know about you, or that you'd like to say as the last word?
No, I think we've covered everything I've had to say for this.
Okay, well, thank you so much, CarolAnn. I'm
Thank
delighted
you.
that you would have this conversation with me, and it's really good to see you, and I will look forward to seeing you again soon.